Hey guys, what's up? Yeah, today we are going to do a solo nightmare guide. So, how can we beat the nightmare solo? But this guide, you can also use this for teams, you can use this for duos or trios, or even if you're very first getting into the nightmare, and you want to just learn the mechanics, it'll be the same for really everything. The main difference between solo and doing it as a team is that this is a really long fight. It's an endurance race. It's an endurance test. So this is probably going to be, I don't know, 17, 18, maybe a 20-minute fight. It's a pretty long fight. But if you go with more people, basically every new person you bring, it kind of chops the time in half. So if you do it as a duo, it might be like a 10-minute fight. If you do it as a trio, it might be like a 6 or a 7-minute fight, but the mechanics stay the same. Nothing really changes if you have more people. It just gets a little bit quicker. But this is going to be a solo guide. So what am I wearing? I have max crush gear. This is you want to bring gear with the absolute best crush bonus that you can. So I'm using Inquisitor and a mace. But if you can't afford all this, you can use like bandos and a bludgeon. If you don't have an infernal cape, you can actually use the mythic cape, the Myth's cape, from Dragon Slayer 2 quest. It actually has a really high crush bonus. But yeah, you want crush gear and a blood fury, definitely a blood fury, because all that passive healing, it adds up big time. For your mage set, you probably want to bring a 6-way mage is fine. 6-way mage is definitely fine. Otherwise, if you want to up your game and bring an 8-way swap, that's good too. Bring a Void Waker or Claws, special attack weapon. If you can't afford either of those, honestly, even the Dragon Mace. The Dragon Mace is actually a pretty good spec weapon at the Nightmare. Simply because it's really cheap, it has a huge crush bonus, and it hits really hard. Beyond that, like I said, it's an endurance test, so bring a couple sand fuse. You'll definitely need some sand fuse. I'm bringing 4. Bring a total of, 7 or 8 maybe restore potions, super restores. Bring some brew, couple super combats. Bring your heart if you have it. And finally, thralls will speed it up a bit too. But let's jump into it. Let's go kill the nightmare. So yeah, when the fight starts off, we're gonna begin just unloading our special attacks, and we're gonna try to use those on cooldown. So every time we get the opportunity to use the special attack, we should. Just because it's such a long fight, we're gonna be able to use it a ton. Keep your thralls up. Try to keep your thralls up. And the nightmare has 3 phases. The normal nightmare fight has 3 phases, and each phase has 2 of its own unique special attacks. So see, we'll dump those 2 Void Wakers, and that's the mage hit right there. So we're gonna try to camp melee. And every time we see she's using a new attack, we'll just prayer flick really quick. So there's the mage. Alright, looks like she's using a lot of mage. I think she snuck a range in there somewhere. But yeah, the whole fight is basically an endurance test where we're just going to be prayer flicking the whole time. So this is her first of 2 special attacks. And that's where she just summons those little husks and you just nuke them down really quick. They only got like 20 health. They die really quickly, really easily. So just take them down really quick and get back on the boss. Otherwise, after a few hits, she will use another special attack. This is for phase 1, and you'll see it right here. She teleports to the center of the arena, and you gotta go to the safe quadrant. The safe quadrant is this kind of green and white flowery quadrant. Oop, there was the melee hit. See, that's why we want to camp melee prayer if possible, because it's 1 tick faster than either her range or mage. So if we're always just camping melee, we're just kind of prepared for it off the bat. That's why we want to camp melee as much as possible. So after she uses her 2 special attacks, she will just cycle through them. So here come those husks again, right? And we just nuke them down really quick. Now, when the husks are up, we're frozen in place. I can't move. See that? I'm stuck in place. And if she uses the black pools while you're stuck in place, it'll never peer underneath you while those husks are up. So you don't need to worry about dodging the black pools while the husks are up, because she'll never throw it underneath you if those husks are up. So here we go, she's got another special attack, and it looks like our Void Waker special is ready again. So let's try to get that off. Oh, and what did I say? I said always keep your thralls up, and I'm forgetting all about them. Top that prayer off a bit. And let's get those Void Waker hits off. Alright, so as you can see, this is definitely, it's a long fight, but it's not super duper difficult because it's like the same thing, just for a really long time. So we can see my Blood Fury, it's been doing real work, right? It heals through almost all of that chip damage. It's really nice. That's why we want to bring the Blood Fury to the normal Nightmare. You don't really need it for Fasanis. You know, Fasanis can be a 0 damage fight. But for the normal Nightmare, a Blood Fury is really nice to have. Try to keep that prayer up, but it looks like she's going down pretty soon here. She's about 400 health. So once she goes down, once we drain her health bar, we go into the mage phase. That's what our mage gear is for. It's for kind of like the second half of each phase is this kind of mage phase. And since we're going into it any second now, we'll pop that heart, get our mage prey bonus, ready to go. See, she won't spawn the black pools underneath us while those husks are up, so that's actually really nice. But here we go, we're getting ready to swap into our mage gear. And now we take down the pillars. And I am using a Sang for this just because, you know, healing through that chip damage, it's just so nice. And she'll still be using those special attacks even during the mage phase, so if she summons those husks, we might have to put our melee gear on really quick and just nuke them down. But otherwise, we're just focused on taking down these 4 pillars as fast as possible, and then she's going to go into phase 2. And phase 2 will have a whole new set of special attacks that we got to deal with. Here come those husks. So we'll take them down as fast as possible. Oh, they do not want to die right now. There we go. And then back in the mage gear, and we finish off those pillars. So that's another thing I want to mention about her melee attack, is that if you're not actually standing in front of her, and specifically in front of her, right, the side doesn't matter, but if you're not standing in front of her, the melee hit will never hit you. It actually is kind of like an AoE hit. Where if you happen to be running away, or if you're on her side, it won't actually hit you. So between phases, she just spawns this quick Sleepwalker. And we just take it down real quick. One hit'll do. You'll always max hit that Sleepwalker. And now we're getting ready for phase 2 of the fight. So she is completely changing her special attacks. Her special attacks are totally different during phase 2. And in my opinion, phase 2 is definitely the hardest of these 3 phases. So we have this prayer. She just swapped our prayers. So we can see now, the way I like to think of it is I camp this middle prayer, right? That's going to be our melee. And if she uses range, I flick left, right? So there's our melee. And if she uses range again, we flick left. And if she uses mage, we're going to flick right. Now you might have just heard a weird sound effect, and that means that our prayers are back to normal. The special attack is done. But she just used the new special attack where she spawned the parasite, and we can see our health bar up there is pink, so we can just click it. And if we click that pink health bar, it'll auto-use one of our Sandfuse serum doses. And that cures us of like this parasite infection. If you don't cure it, you'll take a massive hit and that parasite will be overpowered. So it looks like it's time to just top ourselves off, and we're back to that fancy prayer again. So we can't middle, and if we see range, we flick left. Right, flick left again. Seems to really like range. And if she uses mage, we'll flick to the right. But that special attack, it just ended again. So it's really important to pay attention to when your prayers actually go back to normal, so you don't accidentally miss a prayer flick. Right? And the best way to notice when your prayers have gone back to normal is there is this weird little sound effect that takes place. So you want to try and kill the parasite as absolutely fast as possible, because as you can see right now, it is healing the boss, which sucks. That's another reason why this phase is just so brutal. It takes a really long time. So mage, we flick right. Now let's listen for this sound effect, right? After she does 5 or 6 hits, we'll hear this weird sound effect. So pay attention. Here it comes. It's coming really soon. Probably right here. There, that was the noise. It's a little hard to hear, but when you hear that weird sound effect, your prayers have gone back to normal, and we need to get out of the mindset of using that fancy prayer flicking. Kill that parasite as fast as possible because it heals her so much. Keep his super combat up. But you can see it really is just a giant endurance test. The fight isn't necessarily hard, it's just the same thing, it repeats itself over and over again. But it's a really long fight. The good news is that after Phase 2, the entire fight gets significantly easier. Phase 3 is the easiest of the 3 phases. Here we go again, another parasite. I'm going to try and keep an eye on that thrall. Looks like it's got about 15 seconds left, and we'll resummon it right away. Now, when she does those black pools, you can't stand underneath her. Not only do you have to dodge the black pools, but if you're standing underneath her, you'll still take the full hit, which is pretty brutal. Oops. Ooh, that was really close. Not good. Should probably be our last round of parasites, and she's going down. Hopefully we can kill her before the parasite heals her up. There we go, one-shot that parasite. And she is down. So now we can kill those pillars. It's the same thing again. And we'll pay attention to those prayers. Right? She's on that purple special attack, so right is prey mage, left is prey range. Now that parasite's going to come out and it's really weak to crush, so we do want to get back into our melee gear for it. There it is, and we'll take down the parasite really quick. And then back into the mage gear. And if we can get these pillars down, we're actually going into the easiest part of the fight, which is phase 3. And phase 3 has the most forgiving special attacks, the easiest to, avoid. They're the most, you don't got to worry about ads or anything. All we got to do at that point is kill the boss. And we're almost there. Hopefully she doesn't do one more parasite. Looks like she's going down. Oh, was I too slow? That was so dumb. That sucks. So we got to deal with one more parasite. Well, we killed that sleepwalker, and we're going into phase 3, the final phase of the fight. So here comes that here comes the parasite. It'll pop out here in a sec, and we'll kill him really quick. So phase 3 of the fight, we have more new special attacks, but like I said, these are the easiest ones to deal with. Let's get a thrall out. So here's the mushrooms, and all you have to do is not stand by them. Literally, just don't stand next to the mushrooms. Don't stand on them. Don't stand next to them. And they'll pop after a little bit of time. Very easy special attack to just completely ignore. Right, and that was the whole special attack. We really didn't have to do anything special except not stand next to those mushrooms. If you do happen to stand next to one of the mushrooms, the worst thing that happens is it slows your attacks down. A 4-tick weapon becomes something like an 8-tick weapon or something. It just slows down your hits. And I think it drains your prayer a little bit too. Every time you yawn, your character will start yawning, and it might drain your prayer a little bit too. Or maybe that's a Fasani only mechanic. But very forgiving mechanic right there. Right, and she'll use that again in just a minute here. Here come those mushrooms. So see one spawned right next to me. All I gotta do is step a tile away. Very simple. Now I forgot to mention her second special attack, but you might have seen it. But she's gonna teleport to a random side of the room and do like this massive rush attack. Here it comes, right? And you just can't stand in front of her. So that's all you have to do. If you see that she's looking right at you, just don't stand in front of her, and you'll avoid the hit. And that's her entire that's all her special attacks. We've seen all of her special attacks at this point that she's capable of using. And all we really got to do is nuke down the boss and finish her up. Looks like she's getting pretty low. We'll have a chance to get off 2 more Voidwaker hits here in just a sec. And then we kill the portals, and she is done. Our thrall's up, so we'll do one more round of thralls, and that'll be our last thrall of the fight. Get this last Voidwaker hit off really quick. Right, and don't stand in front of her. I kind of greeted a hit right there, but, I had my timing down. No need to greet that extra hit. Just get out of the way so she doesn't hit you. And we're going into the final mage phase. So our heart's almost up. We'll keep our eye on that and use it as soon as possible. step away from that mushroom. And as soon as the 4th pillar falls, the fight is over. Right, so we're almost there, boys. It's just a really long, high-focus endurance race. Lots of prayer flicking. We're prayer flicking the whole time. Right, it's basically 20 minutes of non-stop prayer flicking. Phase 2 is really brutal. If you can manage to get past Phase 2, the fight's in the bag. So I think Phase 2 is probably the biggest stumbling block for most people. It's really hard to deal with the healing from that parasite and kill it fast enough. It's hard to get used to the weird prayers when she swaps your prayers up on you. But once you learn those techniques, the fight gets significantly easier. But it's always going to be a long fight no matter what. You can see I'm literally bringing max gear, and this is a super long fight. But there's no harm in doing it with your friends. It goes about twice as fast for every extra person that you bring. And we get a bunch of junk loot. Some bass, right? So this boss drops, most of the time it's really poor loot. It definitely doesn't drop good loot until you finally get that big ticket item. And you can see right here, that was a 17-minute kill. And that was in really max gear. It wasn't super efficient, right? I could have had my thralls up a little more often. I think a few times I just didn't have my super combat potion up. But like I said before the fight began, you can basically be expecting this to be a good 20-minute fight. This is going to be a 20-minute fight. But they recently increased the drop rates on the Nightmare. And those big ticket items, you know, some of those orbs, they're still, how much is the, I mean, those orbs are hundreds of mils, some of them. Inquisitor items are all 40-50 mil each. The mace, I think, is over 300 mil right now. So it's a really good boss to kill if you're feeling lucky. If you think you can get one of those big ticket items, it's a really nice solo drop. It's a really nice split. So I hope you enjoyed the fight. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. And if you got any questions about giving the Nightmare a shot, feel free to comment below. And I try to answer all the questions, guys. So, cool. Good luck. See you in the next one. Peace.